And now we turn our heads to current affairs across the world as the conflict between Israel and Gaza continues and the death toll increases with more than 600 Palestinians, 27 Israeli soldiers and 2 Israeli civilians killed thus far. World leaders are demanding an immediate halt to the hostilities. But is an end in sight? That is the main question we ask today. Now with us in studio, Muhammed Desai from the BDS South Africa and the Coalition for a Free Palestine, as well as Ben Levitas from the SA Jewish Board of Deputies to discuss the issue. Gentlemen, good morning.
From the Zionist Federation.
The Zionist Federation. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Ben, I'm going to start off with you, if you allow me to start off the question.
Sure.
That Israel has obviously received a lot of international condemnation with the offensive on Gaza right now, and including our own government that's had harsh words towards the Israeli government calling for an immediate withdrawal of the troops from Gaza. Do you believe that this offensive is justified on Gaza?
Well, sure. Already 2,000 rockets have been fired at civilians. Today, aeroplanes cannot fly in and out of Israel. The intention of Hamas, and Hamas is holding the Palestinian population hostage. Hamas basically is a genocidal, fanatical organization that doesn't care about its people, and we regret the suffering of all Palestinians and Israelis. So this is a it's an unwanted war. Israel has not looked for this war. Israel has accepted every ceasefire, every possible offer of a ceasefire Israel has agreed to.
And Mohammed, Israel claims to be targeting Hamas strongholds in Gaza in an effort to defend itself from rockets being fired into their territories. How would you respond to that statement?
We must put things into perspective, and especially for viewers out there.
Yeah.
The Gaza Strip is the world's largest open-air prison as described by Archbishop Desmond Tutu. It's 1.8 million people in an area 45 kilometers long by 15 kilometers wide. It's the most densely populated piece of land on this earth. That Israel now bombs the Gaza Strip makes things all the more horrendous. Of course, they are Hamas. Hamas is a political party. Of course, they are Hamas members that may be living in certain areas, but that doesn't mean that they become fair game in any sorts of attack. 600 people, over 112 of them children, are simply unacceptable. The question then is, what do we as peace and justice-loving people across the world, and particularly in South Africa, people who are the beneficiaries of international solidarity, how do we respond to this? And the answer to that is boycott, divestment and sanctions, BDS. Similarly to how apartheid South Africa was isolated during the 1980s, we can now isolate Israel to create the necessary conditions for a just peace to be negotiated between the Palestinians and the Israelis.
Ben, I'm assuming by your gesture you have a response to that.
Yeah, no, obviously. First of all, if Gaza is so densely settled, why does Hamas put its people in danger? Why do they not build bomb shelters for them? Why do they not care about them? They hide themselves, the leaders, away very well, but they don't allow anybody into the tunnels. And when Israel sends that knocking a warning onto the buildings, Hamas actually forces the people back in. I've seen footage of that. As far as boycott will not help solve the problem at all. And why do you not? This is a very hypocritical approach, because basically next door in Syria, about 3 million people have escaped and become refugees. About 200,000 people have died, and Muhammad has not said a word about that. That is hypocritical. The fact that he only cares about Palestinians and counts every child and woman that dies there is a hypocritical stance. It's a political stance. The stance is an anti-Israel and anti-Jewish stance, because Israel is the only Jewish state in the world.
Mohammed, I'm going to give you a fair chance to also respond to that.
No problem. When people stood up across the world in their thousands, if not millions, against apartheid South Africa, it didn't mean that they weren't committed to other struggles. We choose our battles as well. We have to focus our energies. If you are against child abuse, it doesn't mean that you're not against animal abuse. Likewise here. It doesn't mean because I'm against Israeli occupation and Israeli apartheid, I'm not against what's happening, for example, in the Saudi monarch or any other country for that matter.
Understood.
I just want to say that I take offense to that statement that Israel is an apartheid, or the analogy, because they use adjectives very blithely. And Israel, there's nothing apartheid about Israel. And there's nothing in common between the struggle against the old apartheid South Africa and modern-day Israel. Modern-day Israel is the only democracy, the only functioning state with a judiciary in the Middle East. And so you cannot liken Israel to apartheid South Africa.
If I may continue with the questioning, that the fact that Israel now has launched a ground offensive against Gaza. What is the ultimate goal here?
The ultimate goal is to stop the rockets. Israel wants life in Israel, civilian life is disrupted. Every rocket is a crime against humanity because every rocket is aimed at civilians, at civilian centers. Okay, Hamas's intention is to kill every Jew living in Israel. They do not only not accept Israel, but they want to kill every single person that is of Jewish descent living there, because they claim the whole of Palestine, or so-called Palestine, or the whole of current Israel as their territory. And it is driven by an Islamic fundamentalist stance, because they quote the Quran, and they basically quote surahs from the Quran in which they justify the killing of all the Jews.
Muhammad.
Well, firstly, it's wrong to call the struggle against Israeli apartheid an anti-Jewish struggle. Just as how the struggle against apartheid wasn't an anti-white struggle. We have many Jewish comrades, for example, in the Palestinian Solidarity Movement, Ronnie Kasserls, Ben Churok, and various others, Zapiro, various others that have joined us on the right side of history, that have said, not in my name, that what Israel is doing is not in the name of Judaism, it's in the name of Zionism. And I think that really the solution for Palestine and Israel can come from South Africa. Let's create a country for all people. Equal rights for Jewish inhabitants, equal rights for the Palestinians.
I want to say that the Palestinians in Israel are the only free Palestinians in the whole of that area. They have free rights to vote in parliament. They have free rights to sit in parliament. There are members of parliament that are Palestinian. There are Palestinian judges. There are Palestinian generals in the Israeli Defense Force. Okay? Yeah. So basically, Muhammad's fight has already been won by Israel. Israel is the only functioning free society in the Middle East and the only society in which Palestinians enjoy rights. Palestinians are hated by all other, most other Arab people, and particularly Hamas. Hamas is completely isolated at the moment because of their fanaticism.
Look, I mean, debating with the right-wing person is easy because you just look at facts. The South African Human Sciences Research Council, a statutory body of the South African government, in 2009 conducted an investigation. And after that investigation, the HSRC reported that Israel is guilty of not only the crime of apartheid, but also the crime of colonialism and occupation. So not only is it in fact that Israel is guilty of apartheid, but various of our anti-apartheid struggle stalwarts, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Zwelin Zimbabwe, Bladen Zimbabwe, Winnie Mandela, various others that struggled against apartheid have been to Palestine and have come back saying the conditions that Palestinians are currently living under is the same as that under apartheid, if not worse.
I think just, you know, in closing, everyone out there wants to know, is there an end in sight? Is there a way of finding a middle ground and ultimately finding peace? Because having this going on, innocent people being killed, not just, you know, civilians in general, but children that are being caught up in the midst of all of this. From both of you, what would be the middle ground to find ultimate peace, Ben?
Well, there's no middle ground with Hamas because Hamas don't even want to talk to us because they basically want to kill us. So the middle ground is to basically talk and to reach a peace agreement. And hopefully we can do that with the Fatah element of the Palestinian organization, with Mahmoud Abbas. He's a reasonable man. He's condemned the rocket fire. He's condemned the killings of the 3 Israeli boys that were kidnapped. And so hopefully we can reach a middle ground.
Mohammed.
Well, a shout out to people like Rihanna, Selena Gomez, Massive Attack, and various other artists that are joining us on the right side of history. By joining the boycott, divestment, and sanctions campaign, we are isolating Israel for the pariah state that it is, similarly to how apartheid South Africa was isolated, and will create the necessary conditions for a just peace to be negotiated in Palestine, Israel, with the South African spirit.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for sharing your insights with us this morning. Clearly, this is no doubt a still very complicated issue that is going to be raging on for a while, but I think that we can all agree that a loss of life on either side is unwarranted and tragic and unwanted by anyone. So let's hope that a solution can be found between the leaders of both sides with the help, of course, of the international community. Now, let us know what your thoughts are on our Facebook page. We're going to take a very quick ad break and we'll be right back.